All right. You should see it soon.
And we are live with the latest edition of Nick Valencia Live. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday, October 23rd. It's been a while. It's been about a week since our last broadcast, and we have a lot to catch up on. I know a lot of you guys followed our reporting in Los Angeles. We're just going to get right into it. We were at the No Kings protest 2.0 on Saturday, and, we were there on the ground, back where it all started. It was 4 months ago where we launched our independent journalism project, and we did our first live shot with the Jim Acosta show outside of the Metropolitan Detention Center. Fast forward 4 months and a full day of demonstrations, a joyful rebellion. We saw music, we saw the bacon wrapped hot dog ladies, we saw a giant inflatable balloon of Donald Trump in a diaper. And we talked to a lot of people. And as the march ended, roughly around 3 p.m. local time, some of those wanted to continue their day of activism and took their fight to the Metropolitan Detention Center. And we were there shortly before the police on mounted horseback unveiled a violent assault on demonstrators and members of the media as well. You remember a reporting last week, we broke the news that the city of Los Angeles had been trying to lift the injunction, the protections, those broad protections on members of the independent media. Those didn't seem to matter to the Los Angeles Police Department, who declared an unlawful assembly. And after they did, they went in on some people, including members of the press. We know at least one member of the team at LA Taco was hit by Los Angeles Police Department, and things turned ugly. Thankfully, our crew got out of there about 15 minutes before things went left. But that was no way in any form an indication of what we saw during the No Kings protest. It was joy, it was smiles. It was also, though, unfortunately, as my executive producer Eric Sandoval noted, about half the size, maybe not entirely half the size. But what we noticed, what he noticed as a native Los Angelino, is that there were a lot of Latinos that weren't on the streets. And there was a lot of fear right now. Fear because of what is happening on the streets of mostly democratic cities. And we're seeing it places like Los Angeles, which was the testing ground. We're seeing it in places like Chicago, outside of the Broadview detention facility. And we are also seeing it on the streets of New York City. And that's where we want to begin today. We want to show you a clip. The last 48 hours on the streets of New York have looked very similar to what we've seen in places like Chicago and like Los Angeles. And for those who have missed it, this is what has been happening.
Can you chill? There's no need. There's no need. Bro, bro, bro. Public street, man. Assault.
You see there the protests that have taken to the streets. We saw a woman that seemed to just come out of the boardroom dressed in a polka dot dress and pumps, standing up to suspected federal agents. And we're joined now by a very special guest, a man who is the senior whip for the Democratic caucus and also the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And more importantly, as it relates to what you saw right there in New York, he's a representative from the 13th District of New York, Representative Adrian Espaillat. Please come on into the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We're so grateful. We are so grateful, Congressman, because what timing it is to have someone like you on the show. You just saw that video. I want to get right into it. What's your reaction to what you're seeing in New York City?
For some time now, we've had some ICE action in New York City, but it's been like isolated. My neighborhood saw a couple of incidents where people were picked up in their homes. But we always felt that, they would test their strategies and models elsewhere until they came to New York, right? And they would see what worked for them or didn't work for them, and then they would head in right to New York.
Mhm.
And so we see that happening now. This is the first incident, but we're prepared to face them head on. Communities are already promoting self-defense on ICE that give you tips on what to do, what not to do, how to do it, and how to sort of like get yourself in a position where you can get hurt. Not to get hurt is the most important part of it, but to
And that's my concern, Congressman. That is my concern, because we're seeing these incidents and encounters with these federal agents escalate. I don't know if you saw the news in South LA, but there was a TikToker, an influencer, who has been following around ICE activity, and they went to go take him into custody, and there was gunfire. 2 people wounded, a U.S. Marshal and himself. What's your message to your constituents who may have that fear that they want to go, record ICE activity, but we're seeing very aggressive, sort of heightened aggression from these agents?
There's no question that their aggression is heightened, and that is, I believe, above the law. But there's ways and strategies that you can use that will prevent them from doing this in a harmful way. And so we got to train our community. We got to educate our community on how to protest effectively and safely. Eyes have to be open all the time. Cameras have to be on all the time. And the whole world has to be watching. And so when the whole world is watching and you conduct yourself in a way that it is a strategic way that keeps you safe, you can protest both effectively and safely. And so right now, there are people that know that, and that they're training communities on how to go about this. And so tomorrow I'll be heading out to Chicago, because they've already been around the block on this, right? So I want to see what their best practices are as I come back tomorrow afternoon to New York. And we got to get ready because this unfortunately will happen.
Congressman, it is very evident to us that there is going to be a change in power. And what we're seeing on the streets, we hope anyway, we know there's people out there who want 4 more terms. They think Trump should be president for life. Power is going to change. This is a democracy. It's the city on the hill, the beacon, right? What are the Democrats doing to prepare for when that day comes? Because we're seeing suspected federal agents who are masked up, potentially, there's concern that they're from these alt-right, potentially Proud Boys or white nationalist groups. Are you guys doing anything, strategizing behind the scenes to prepare for that day to hold these people accountable for, as you say, breaking the law?
Accountability and record keeping is paramount, right? And so when that happens, when there is a change in power, people are going to have to be held accountable if they broke the law. Simple as that.
Yeah. What is your message to your constituents? Because you're going to go see what's happening in Chicago. You're going to see what's happening in Broadview. You're coming back, and it seems like now this ICE siege of America, this ICE storm that is, captivating our country with these really sobering videos that we're seeing. I don't want to just do this billboard tragedy. I want to empower our community. What are some tools that we can offer to that you're empowering your constituents with, and we can empower our viewers with?
Well, first, I think that people should know that this is being fought at different levels, right? One level is in the courtroom, right? And so people should be keenly aware of all the lawsuits that are there right now, many of which the Congressional Hispanic Caucus is leading on or involved in, to ensure that we claw back what we feel are these anti-immigrant actions. For example, sensitive locations is a piece of administrative policy that the Biden administration put into effect that should be preserved. No one should support, and everybody understand why I should not go into a house of worship. and cuff and arrest people and send them into a detention center. That should not happen.
Sensitive places include churches, schools,
Schools,
hospitals, and we have
emergency
seen
rooms.
federal agents at every single one of these locations,
And
Representative.
so this has to stop. And right now there is litigation going on in that. We should have access to the detention center. I should have access to 26 Federal Plaza, right near where that occurred yesterday. And so we're leading a lawsuit, and I'm a litigant in that lawsuit. For the first time, members of Congress became also people that were suing the government.
Plaintiffs.
Claiming access to these detention centers. In this case, that is an administrative building that has been turned, the 10th floor has been turned into a detention center. So we want to know what's going on there. And so these are the types of legal action that's being taken right now that the American public should be aware of. Then there is the legislative and the budgetary process, right? And in both of these processes, we propose, we meaning the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, amendments to prevent the government from having access to those dollars where they will implement the kind of heavy-handed behavior that they're displaying out across the country. And also legislatively, we're also part of the debate, and we present amendments to ensure that we unveil what the other side is thinking and doing.
Yeah.
So it's on their record. And so we're in the courtroom, legislatively and budgetarily, we're fighting. And then finally, in a moment like this one, you and I are having a conversation, we want to impact public opinion, public sentiment. And so that's the third path that we're taking, educating the public. So the American public must be aware and keenly looking at these three silos that we're working in and join us to make us strong. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus has done a great job, I think, at exposing the problem. We all saw what happened, unfortunately, to Senator Padilla in California, but other members have gotten chemicals thrown at them, have been roughed up, have been denied entry to the detention centers. And so we've been out on the street trying to push harder, and we will continue to push harder until we win.
And we saw that video. We saw that happen when he, went to question Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, and he was roughed up by federal agents, and they didn't even recognize him. And then J.D. Vance, our vice president, goes and almost, I think, deliberately mischaracterized and misnamed him. He used some generic Spanish language name. He's a senator of the United States. And you're seeing these videos, Congressman, of elected officials not being able to access places that they should, under the rule of law in this country, be able to access. You can't get access to deportation officers. You're dealing with a side that is not moving in good faith, right? It's almost as though members of this MAGA movement are saying, okay, meet me in the middle, and then they take a step back.
Well, you can't meet in the middle or in good faith if you're anonymous. If you're not showing your face, if I don't know your name, your first name or your last name, if I don't have your badge number, if I don't know who you are, there's no fairness or equity in that conversation. I'm dealing with somebody that's anonymous, that's willing to do anything because they feel they can get away with it through the fact that they are masked and anonymous. And so no law enforcement agent should be anonymous. No, I don't know of anybody that would open up their doors voluntarily to somebody wearing a ski mask.
Or a balaclava.
It's just unheard of. And it deteriorates any lasting relationship that may have been there between law enforcement and our communities. And so this is going to have, unfortunately, a long-lasting effect in the relationship between the police community and our community.
And this is something that I saw during my drug cartel reporting days, back when I was covering El Chapo, is we saw masked people on the streets in cartel-infested Mexico. And these images, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps describing them. It's almost parallel optics of what we're seeing now on the streets. If you're just joining us, you're joined up by the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Chairman, Representative Adriano Espaillat, who has been gracious enough to join us with his time. He's very busy working on all sorts of things from litigation to legislation. I want to play another video, Representative, a clip that we have here from another incident that happened on the streets of Manhattan. Take a look, and I want to get your reaction to this after we play it. The people have made their voice clear, and I think anyone with any level of compassion, empathy, human decency sees what is going on the streets of America and disagrees with it. So now, having said that you hear that the people of America have made their voice clear, what is an elected representative like you doing about that to rein in ICE?
Well, first of all, the funding of it, unfortunately, was done in reconciliation. And so they have an unprecedented amount of money in their hands. And remember, the Trump administration and Republicans are doing everything they can. Even right now, as we're in a shutdown, for example, the Trump administration has the authority, let's say, to release SNAP contingent funding to pay for this November's food stamps. And, you know, and if they don't, it's another sign that they just don't care.
Yeah.
And so they're out of control. They're a runaway train. And we got to be strategic and smart in pushing back. Now, we got to get all our best practices. And that's, as I said to you, I'm heading out to Chicago tomorrow. I've been out to LA and a few other places. And then we're going to develop a strategy for New York, because we know that the president wants a showdown in New York. He wants to make New York, I believe, the battle royale for his ICE aggression. Yeah. And so we got to be ready as communities. We got to be ready so that our people don't get hurt, our people don't get pushed around, our people don't get arrested and deported unjustifiably. Even green card holders and even U.S. citizens. I visited 4 U.S. born kids in Monterrey, Mexico, that were sent back, including a little girl with a severe brain tumor that had to go to a Houston hospital to get treated, and she wasn't getting her treatment. So this
is the public aware about that you have 4 U.S. citizens that have been deported to Mexico?
Of course, we went there. The mother and the father was taking the little girl to a hospital in Houston. They got stopped at a checkpoint. The mother was told, if you don't take them with you, you're going to be deported. And if you don't take them with you, you're never going to see them again. So what's a mother to do? And so
Cruelty
this is
the
the state
point
of affairs in America today. We all got to put our best efforts forward. And I believe, yes, at some point, we're going to have to put our bodies on the line. No question about it.
I really hope it doesn't get to that point, but it seems like it's marching towards that point. We saw it when we were on the front lines. You know, you talk about U.S. citizens being caught up in this. ProPublica has reported at least 170 cases of U.S. citizens being detained, over 100 that had more than 24 hours they couldn't call a loved one. I mean, this is an administration where it seems cruelty is the point, and they're even dismissing elected representatives. I want to pivot here and talk about Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva. She's supposed to be our newly elected congresswoman from the state of Arizona. She won in a landslide. She has a mandate, she could argue, and won on a very progressive agenda, and yet she still hasn't been sworn in. What's the deal?
That's correct. Even after the Secretary of State of Arizona certified her election, meaning there is no doubt usually if there is a tight election and votes are still being contested, sometimes they hold back before someone is sworn in. But in this case, the Secretary of State of Arizona has already certified the election, sent the certification to Speaker Johnson. She's been duly elected. Close to 800,000 of her constituents are being taxed right now with no representation.
With no representation. Thank you.
And so we're pushing for her to be immediately in a pro forma section as they gabble in, even in the middle of a shutdown, as they gabble in DC. We could have her sworn in and be an immediate active member. Now we're allowing her, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, to caucus with us, and she's part of everything that we're doing. But she's not able to cast a vote in the House of Representatives. She's not able to represent her constituents in a district office. She's not able to provide those services to constituents that believed in democracy and cast their vote in support of her.
I can't even believe I'm going to bring it up, but because she believes that this is the truth now, it's not a conspiracy. She told us that she thinks that has everything to do with the Epstein files. She said she saw the social media stuff initially, dismissed it, thought, no way, they're going to, there's been other pro forma sessions where people have been sworn in. What do you think, Congressman?
I think that she will be a decisive vote in the Epstein file situation, and they are afraid to unveil and open up the Epstein files to the American people. And so her vote will be a decisive vote. And they've counted the votes, and they're going to try to delay her for as long as they can. And
even though the president campaigned on releasing the Epstein files on day one, right?
Right.
Yeah. I want you brought up the shutdown, Congressman. What's it going to take to end the shutdown? I mean, this could be the longest shutdown in the history of America.
It's going to take the Republicans' acceptance that they have to restore the tax credit so that people's premiums don't double or triple. It's going to take the Republicans' acceptance that Medicaid cannot be dismantled because it is a life and death debate.
Yeah. That
if one is a recipient of Medicaid, as are 488,000 of my constituents, they could very well die of a serious illness if they don't have the kind of health care they deserve. So we're not going to be pushed aside or roll over on this. We're moving forward, and we're saying, if you don't give us that, if you don't give us Medicaid, if you don't give us the premiums at the levels that they are right now, we're not voting to open up government. And I think Democrats are holding firm, and the president is just basically scatterminded, traveling all over the world.
Yeah, traveling all over the world, tearing down parts of the White House, building a huge ballroom. Spending money when Americans are cash strapped. They're trying to figure out, how to budget, how to buy groceries. What are they going to do for gas? And you're seeing this opulent style of living. What do Americans need to know about their government right now?
Americans need to know that we're fighting to make sure that rich people, very rich people, don't get the tax rate and the tax break that they're looking to get on account of them being denied their basic services. Healthcare, important. Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, very important. Amongst other types of benefits and services, the education system, for example, bilingual education. The bilingual program was dismantled within the Department of Education by this administration. And so English language learners that would otherwise take 5-6 years to be proficient in the English language are going to have a harder time now getting proficient in that language and becoming competitive in their academic endeavors. So there's lots to be done beyond the immigration debate, which I think is really about the soul of our nation, because we're still very much a nation of immigrants. They don't like to admit it, but that's who we are. And we should continue to fight to ensure that we continue to be a nation of immigrants.
We say here at Nick Valencia News, immigrants make America work. You know, they put America to work. We spent time in the Central Valley in Delano with the grape pickers.
Like
90%
Lin-Manuel Miranda says, immigrants get the job done in Hamilton. Yes.
That's it. That's it. That's punto. Like that is so evident to people who are moving in good faith and reasonable minded. We know that immigrants add value to this country, and somehow where do you think it went wrong? What did President Trump do to convince the American public that immigrants are bad?
You know, he weaponized the immigration debate. The immigration debate is a very diverse debate. You know, it's not about one particular issue. You know, you have deportations, family reunification, you have TPS, you have dreamers, DACA recipients, farm workers, you have specialized visas. You know, you have a whole host of issues that are very complicated in their own right. And so he took each and every one of those issues and he weaponized it and he demonized it and he scapegoated immigrants. And he made the American people believe that everything that was wrong or anything that went wrong was because of immigration. When in fact, we're an aging nation. We need the hand of labor. No major progress has been seen in the history of the world, and including the history of our nation, without the hand of immigration in labor.
That's right.
In our economy. And so he weaponized this and he demonized it. And he, you know, there's a racial undertone to it to make it what it is today, a very lightning rod type of issue that I believe had an impact favorable for him in the elections, unfortunately.
If you had the opportunity, if President Trump was sitting right here instead of me, and we were having this conversation, what would you talk to President Trump about? What would your message be to the president?
You know, the first thing he seems to tout the fact that he's a businessman. So, you know, I would say to him, you know, talk to me about your business. I know that there are immigrants working in his golf course. I know a doorman and people that worked in his buildings in a district that I represented when I was a state senator. There were immigrants. And I think there were hardworking people that made his businesses better. So I say, if you had if you benefited from their presence there, why not give them an opportunity now to do better for our country?
That's it. We saw. This is the last question I have, and then I'm going to ask you if you have anything to talk about. We saw a lot of Latino men vote for Trump. We saw a lot of people that voted for President Biden in 2020, that flipped to President Trump in 2024. It seems as though this new generation is enamored with the WWE president, this strong and wrong character. These young kids that I spent time with in Delano were talking about him like he was an influencer that they liked, not the president. So you know that there's a problem with young people and the Democratic Party. You know there's a problem with keeping our voters, the Democratic Party keeping the voters. What's your message to those Democrats that flipped? What's your message to those that didn't show up in 2024? How are you planning on winning people back?
Hold on to your Medicaid. He's about to take it. He's about to take it from you. Hold on to your Medicaid. Put it in your wallet because he's about to take it from you.
Is that what's going to take? Is like more personal people are going to need to feel the impact to understand and realize that's what I'm saying.
People will feel the impact this week when they don't get paid because of the shutdown. People are going to feel the impact when they get a notice saying that their premiums have doubled on the Obama exchange.
Yeah, and on that note,
year, you know, next year when the Medicaid cuts kick in, people are going to really panic and say, "What did I do?" So hold on to your Medicaid if you voted for him, you know. But you still have a chance at redemption. There's always, I believe in contrition and redemption.
You know, and on that point, I came back from LA this week. I landed in Atlanta. We landed early. The plane in front of us didn't leave in time. I'm pretty sure this was government shutdown related, air traffic controllers at the wheel. We did a near miss, Congressman. We tapped down and shot back up. The collective energy on the flight was just like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in that. I fly a lot, never been in anything like that. We are so grateful for your time. We are so
Thank
grateful.
you.
Is there
Thank you,
anything that I
Nick.
haven't asked you that you think is important to know, or anything that you'd like to talk about? Now's your chance.
Well, we pretty much covered everything. I just want to congratulate some of those Dodger fans. They're in the World Series. We're a little bit jealous here in New York, but that's okay. We'll live with it. There's always next year.
God bless you. Thank you for the love from my precious
All right, take
lawyers,
care.
Representative Adrian Espaillat. Thank you
Take
so much
care.
for taking the time with Nick Valencia
Thank
News. It
you.
was a pleasure.
Thank you.
That was the Democratic Senior Whip in the Democratic Caucus, as well as the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. I want to take a moment and pause here really quick, because we started this 4 months ago, and we're just getting these phenomenal guests who are seeing the value in our platform. They're seeing that independent journalism matters. They're seeing what's happening out there in the country. They're seeing how we're covering it. And our special thanks to Rafael Bernal. Rafael Bernal is in the press office over there at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and has been following our show and made sure that the Congressional Hispanic Chairman was on today. You're going to see a lot more Latino representatives. I hope you get used to us dipping into Washington. We're hoping to invite on Representative Veronica Escobar from Texas, Representative out in California, Jimmy Gomez as well. And on that, while I was out in California, we're going to talk a little bit while we wait for our next guest to join. While I was out in California, I met a guy who is named Lauren Collins, and he is running against Jimmy Gomez. His take is that there are a lot of people in this country, and it sort of has to do with the questions that I was just talking to the chairman there about. There's a lot of people that are looking at third party as a very viable option. And according to Lauren Collins, who's running in the 34th district, the 34th district in California, represented by Jimmy Gomez, they don't vote. And not only don't they don't vote, when they do, they tend to vote more progressive. And so he is hopeful that he can challenge the incumbent, somebody who has been a very vocal supporter of undocumented immigrants, because there is this movement afoot in California and across the country, in his eyes, for third-party progressive candidates. So it's something that he thinks is a viable option. We'll see. We'd love to have Jimmy Gomez on the show. The invitation is out there. Another thing, that we're really tapping into is just the spread of this siege of America by ICE agents all across the country. The videos are getting worse. And it was earlier this week, it was on Tuesday, actually, where we saw, and I brought it up in this conversation right now with the representative, that we saw a TikTok influencer who was shot and injured and hospitalized because of an incident involving a federal operation. Now, DHS says that he used his car to ram vehicles. The advocates of this TikTok influencer say that's just not the case, and video proves otherwise. They claim that the feds were very aggressive in taking him into custody. They knew exactly who he was. And that's one of the fears and the through lines that we're tugging on right now. Are the feds now targeting activists? Are they targeting people who are tracking their activity? We know of somebody in Los Angeles who is facing 5 years of federal prison time for documenting ICE activity. Now, her case is a little different. The feds allege that she followed one of their agents home and broadcast it on a social media live stream. And it was because of that she's now facing 5 years in federal prison. They think, the activists that we spoke to in Los Angeles, that the nation is trying to make an example of her, that the Trump administration is trying to make an example of her. Also, while we were in Los Angeles, we met up with the guys from LA Taco. You've seen a lot of the great work that they're doing over there. They've become an instrumental force of living in Los Angeles. If you want to know what's happening, you want to know especially what's happening with immigration, or just in general, want to stay plugged in, we spent some time with Memo, and it's really exciting. He's become this sort of Edward R. Murrow-esque figure in Los Angeles. He claims that whenever he goes into a bar to go decompress, that he can't pay for a drink because people are there just celebrating him and every contribution that he's made to helping us understand what's going on the streets of Los Angeles. And you know what, guys? They're afraid. Maybe not afraid, but they are aware, and they recognize it as a realistic possibility that they too could be targeted by the Trump administration for the work that they do. They say any fascist playbook, look at Chile, that's the example that they used. You go after and start to dismantle institutions in this country, that are necessary and needed. Things like education, things like the press. And when you start to rip away freedom of the press, what are you left with? You're left with a silo of state TV. You're left with people that are only supporting one party. And that's not a true democracy. That's not, that's not what we signed up for here in this great American experiment. We are waiting, and I'm riffing, I don't know if you could tell, for Joshua. Joshua is the special counsel over at Human Rights First. Joshua Colangelo-Bryan. He's a special counsel. He spearheads an initiative that impacts litigation, legal initiatives, and he's sued the Trump administration for trying to deport a college student. He has sued them for trying to transfer a American to Guantanamo Bay. And he claims that it's all about the optics of the headlines. It's trying to get this headline of having this, cruelty is the point kind of approach to immigration. Let's send people to Guantanamo. Think about the optics of that, reading that headline. And then he says that they just send them right back to the United States. It's what we've seen talking about these activists, it's what we've seen with these activists. It's like the overcharging of activists to get the headline where these charges wilt away. And I think, I don't know, Eric, is Joshua here with us? He might be audio only, I'm thinking. Is that the audio? If it is, that doesn't work. Joshua's joining us. Here we go. Josh, are you there?
I am.
Josh, there you go. I think you're, I don't know if you can get on camera for us, man. We'd love to see you, but we could hear you.
I would love to join the video portion as well. I'm just trying to figure out if, there we go. I believe.
Let's make it happen. There we go. There he is. I felt like I was back at CNN vamping in between breaks there, waiting for my guest to show up. I hope I didn't sound too boring. Lose some viewers.
You have not
here.
lost a step. You're vamping like a pro.
Hey, I still got it, baby. Joshua, you've written a new book. I want to hear about it. We got a picture of it. We want to give you the platform to talk about what you're writing about. Come on in and talk to us about what you're doing.
So this is a story that was set back in what I'll call Guantanamo 1.0, in that post 9/11 world when the US government brought about 800 people who it told us were the worst of the worst terrorists to Guantanamo. I signed up to represent a number of those individuals. And while I was doing it as a matter of principle, because the government's position was that it could hold anyone it called an enemy combatant at Guantanamo forever without a trial, and those people did not even have a right to be treated humanely, I also had some concerns about who I actually would be representing. So I recall before my first meeting with a client down there, having at least a few moments of anxiety, wondering if I was going to be going into a room by myself and sitting down with one of the worst, some hardened terrorist who would want to, grab me by the throat and bang my head off the table or something. It's really almost embarrassing when I recall feeling that, because when I walked into the room, the first thing I saw was this very slight man sitting at a table. And as soon as he saw me, his face broke into a big smile. And as I walked toward him, I saw him trying to get up. I realized he was shackled to the floor by an ankle, but he wanted to get up to shake my hand and thank me for coming. So that, I'll say at a minimum, really reduced my anxiety that I was going to be involved in any kind of confrontation. And then over the next few minutes, and this was just a complete surprise to me, we ended up in a very easy conversation about movies. He told me Jumanji was his favorite movie, which I had to admit I'd never heard of. We talked about food. We talked about family. We just had this personal connection that I never expected. Over the course of several years of representing him, it really grew into a friendship, albeit a friendship under very fraught circumstances. And now, 20 years after we first met, we're still friends. I think that the book has relevance today because what we're seeing from the US government is just massive efforts to vilify groups of people that it claims are causing all kinds of harm to us. So, all undocumented immigrants are vicious criminals, that kind of thing. And that sort of demagoguery, when coupled with policy efforts to cut off people's rights, it always leads to consequences that you look back on with regret. I mean, nobody looks back at the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II and says, oh, thank God we did that because it really kept us safe. These episodes never actually contribute to our national security, but they always have really terrible human consequences. And so I think we saw that in Guantanamo 1.0, and we're seeing that today, including as this administration literally sends people now to Guantanamo.
Joshua Colangelo-Bryan, he's the special counsel at Human Rights First, joining us now in the program. Do you know what's really sobering is, as you're talking about that, I think about all the detainees that we've talked to that are in the current immigration detention center here, stateside. One of the more chilling things came from a man named Carlos de la Valle, who we've been focusing on, and he told his wife, don't be scared about me being in here. I'm okay. I'm around a bunch of people like me. And he's a father of a college grad or college student. He's been in the country 35 years, added value to this country. That is so sobering to this journalist to know that it's not the violent offenders. I don't think anyone, Josh, wants the murderers, the pedophiles, the rapists living next door or in this country. But that's not who this is about, is it?
When you look at the government's own statistics, and the last really comprehensive accounting was towards the end of the summer, ICE had about 60,000 people in its detention facilities. Half of them had no criminal record at all. And about 1 in 10 had a serious conviction. And absolutely, I'm with you. For the 1 in 10 with a serious conviction and a removal order, bon voyage.
Yeah,
but for other people who haven't done anything criminal, let alone wrong, and have been contributing to society, how does that help us even strategically to spend billions of dollars chasing them down and sending them home? Put aside the human consequences that you're talking about, like a college kid whose dad is locked up for no good reason.
When you look at this system and any good faith, reasonable person will see that cruelty is the point in this. How do you reconcile that? What do you tell your clients who are caught up in this mess?
Our clients are all well aware because they have been the direct victims of it, the extent to which the cruelty, the theatrical cruelty is the purpose. I mean, you mentioned that we represent a college student. She came here with her family from South Korea when she was 7. She's a legal permanent resident, but not a citizen. And so because she had attended a couple of protests relating to Gaza, the government sent squads of agents to her dorm room in Columbia and her parents' home in Virginia in order to arrest her, to expel her. Now, how kicking a kid who's, her main offense, in my view, is that she probably studies too hard and she has a GPA that makes me feel inadequate when I compare it to what mine was. How kicking that kid out of the country benefits anyone? Well, obviously it doesn't. So she is well aware of what the true nature of this is. All I have been able to figure out wearing my litigator's hat is to describe the specific steps that we will take in terms of court action to try to get people some relief. And in her case, we got a judge to bar the government from detaining her or transferring her. For people we filed habeas petitions on behalf of in Guantanamo in the spring, again, we were seeking similar relief. The government very quickly sent them to their home countries. So it's really a matter of trying to find remedies in a court system that, at least at the trial court level, can still function in a fairly normal way.
I think picking up on this through line of Guantanamo and knowing that people are being sent there today. You told me yesterday when we had our pre-interview, only to be sent back to the United States. You know, it's like this cruelty headline. Who is being sent to Guantanamo today?
So the government, in an incredibly haphazard way, has sent about 700 people from the U.S. to Guantanamo since the spring. That's the first time in our history when people have been sent from this country to this 45 square mile military base we have in the middle of Cuba, which obviously is, you know, not an ally of ours.
Right.
When I say haphazard, what I mean is that sometimes they send people who stay for a few days and then they bring them back to the States. I defy anyone to give me a legitimate explanation for that stopover. In other instances, they have sent people to Guantanamo and then on to other countries like El Salvador or Venezuela. Again, why you wouldn't have a plane fly from Texas to El Salvador directly makes no sense.
It makes sense when you think about the money. That's what we're seeing here. It's like, we think this is family separation 2.0, that they're trafficking people across the country through these different detention centers like luggage, because somebody back at the end of the line is lining their pockets. GeoCorp, Core Civic. I mean, that's the only explanation to this journalist and this journalist team.
Yeah, and I should have spoken more precisely. It makes no sense from a legitimate security perspective. It makes sense from the perspective you mentioned. It also makes sense when you think about Secretary Noem going to Guantanamo and doing a photo op with a bunch of military officers and talking about how we're going to be sending tens of thousands of people there. And then that gets tweeted and Instagrammed and, you know, otherwise spread around social media. So an operation that in the first 5 or 6 weeks cost about $40 million to the US taxpayer. What does it get us? Well, the most expensive stopovers in history and a great photo op if you want to show what a badass you are when it comes to immigration.
I mean, that's what it's about, though, right? It's like DHS Barbie and WWE President Trump. And, you know, we saw it at MacArthur Park with Chief Bobino of the West Coast Border Patrol, just getting those optics of looking tough. Because that's all that matters. It's like, if you look tough and you're strong and wrong, like my jazz teacher used to say on my, you know, on the trumpet, like, if you're going to be wrong, make it strong. And all of a sudden, the loudest guy in the room, who we know is usually the one that has the least to say, is now being considered as the smartest person in the room. And that's political theater, man. I'm so grateful for you coming on the show and just telling us about your work. And thankful that we got the technical stuff worked out. You know, now's your chance. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you think is important to know? I love this idea of you coming back on the show continually to just give some legal perspective. But, you know, we have another guest waiting right after you who we want to get to. Anything that we haven't asked you that you think is important to know that you'd like to say? Now's your chance, Joshua.
Yeah, I think we really all need to be watching for these places where the government is sparing no expense to look tough, doing things that have nothing to do with our national security. I mean, 2 days ago in Chinatown in New York, we saw an armored car and agents with long guns marching in the street to get some street vendors. I mean, there is no New Yorker who would say that the street vendors on Canal Street are anywhere in their top 50 issues when it comes to safety. Yet here we have this show of force as if we were looking at Baghdad in 2005, all to arrest some guys who, you know, admittedly are selling bootleg baseball hats, but not doing anything more than that. So we really need to keep our eyes on that performative, expensive theater and see it for what it is.
Where can people go get your book? Where can they follow your work?
SimonandSchuster.com is probably the easiest way to get it in this age of online consumerism. And the Human Rights First website talks about great things the organization is doing across a number of different subject areas. And we welcome all visitors.
Joshua Colangelo-Bryan, author of Through the Gates of Hell, special counsel with Human Rights First. Thank you so much for joining Nick Valencia News, man. We'll see you again.
Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah, great to talk to you too. God, that was Joshua. I love Human Rights First. In full disclosure, I did a story with them years ago, an exclusive. It was actually literally the last story that CNN aired before we went into the full-blown COVID-19 coverage. And what that story revealed, which I partnered with Human Rights First on, was that the government knew, and they said it was a rite of passage, the Remain in Mexico policy. It was a rite of passage to be violently assaulted or potentially even raped. And that wasn't a reason for asylum. The people who sued, we got leaked audio. We were able to put the government on blast and show that their attorneys in open court, in immigration court, are openly admitting that their policy exposes people to potential abuse or death, and it didn't matter. Thankfully, those people who are subject to the story, they're living safe here in the United States now. But great work being done over there by Human Rights First. We want to pivot now to a series that we've been bringing you to wrap up our shows. And we have brought to you what we could only label here at Nick Valencia News, Family Separation 2.0. And we've brought to you people that are impacted by Trump's 2.0 separation policy. And joining us today, who's originally from Altadena, but I believe she's in Florida today, Ria Khan. Ria, your mother is actually, you told me earlier this morning, you called me, dare I say panicked, thinking that your mom might be actually deported. What can you tell us about the status of your 64-year-old mother?
Yeah, so, and thank you for having me today. She called me early in the morning, right before I called you, and she was panicked, and she was calling from someone else's phone line because she's being denied access to phone calls, and she said that they took away her medications at 12:30 a.m. and then took her out at 2:30 in the morning, telling her that she had to take a flight to LAX and that transportation was waiting. They offered her cash, saying, "This is your money." She refused the cash. She refused to go. She refused to sign any documents. And she started having palpitations. And also she started shaking because she does have a lot of health issues. They put her back in and did the same thing again. And she refused to go. And then they put her back again is when she called me. And while we were speaking, they were calling her to medical. And I doubt that's where they took her, but she had to hang up at that time. But I learned recently that they had taken her to LAX at 7 in the morning, and she refused to sign documents, and they are now bringing her back to the facility. But also habeas petition was filed yesterday, as well as a temporary restraining order today. So, and I've been speaking with congressional reps, and they've been reaching out to them. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but yeah, that's the status.
Congressional reps Adam Schiff, Judy Chu, I understand they're aware of your mother's circumstances and story. Tell our viewers what happened, because your mom is one of these people who has been in this country moving in good faith, was taken advantage of by a grifter, a fraudster. And then she had been actually the last 5 years presenting herself at the USCIS office. And it was this last time that she was taken into custody without any indication or warning. But tell us the details.
Yeah, that's correct, Nick. She was defrauded by this man back in 1999. She came here on a valid visa in 1997. And since then, she was unaware that she had a deportation order in absentia because she did not show up to court. which because she was unaware of it, this man didn't let her know. And over the years, she had gone to several attorneys to try and regularize her status, but they said, hey, we can't help you. So in 2015, when my father became a US citizen, he petitioned for her. And when they went to that interview is when she found out about this deportation order. It was denied. She had been appealing and trying to reopen that case. And it's been kind of back and forth. In 2020, she was picked up by ICE. And after a while, after a few hours, they let her go because she does not have a criminal record and she is married to a US citizen. Ever since then, she has had to appear for these check-ins. At first, they were 6 months apart, and then it became an annual thing. And so she's been attending them regularly, and so you can tell she is not a flight risk. So I'm not exactly sure why they decided to detain her and take her into custody on October 6th during one of her regularly scheduled check-ins.
Because even the first time she checked in, that was the last year of the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Of the first one, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And so she presented Trump administration 1.0 last year, all through the Biden administration, only for this time in October, on October 6th, to be taken into custody without any reason about what happened in between.
That's correct. They said that she had a deportation order, and I have to add that she was coerced into signing I think it was a notification. It was a Form 212 by an agent saying that you have to sign it. And she did not provide her with an interpreter to interpret these more difficult government, laws and codes. And she was denied a phone call to her attorney. She was denied a phone call to her family, and she was intimidated into signing this document. And then they took her to the back area of the USCIS office in downtown Los Angeles, where they kept her until 11:30 p.m. and then chained her up, handcuffed her, cuffed her ankles, and took her to California City at like 11:30.
Before I ask you about California City, because that's a big concern to a lot of activists that we just spent some time with in Los Angeles, right. They believe it's been opened illegally by CoreCivic, and it's sort of this dark stain that's being overlooked, right?
Right.
I want to know about who your mom is. She's a 64-year-old mom, for Christ's sake, man. I mean, it's just like the reason that she was in this position to begin with was because you needed a kidney, right? You were in dialysis as a toddler. I mean, this is a mother that would literally give a body part, right? For her child, who would give anything. She's a good person. Tell us about who she is and the kind of people that the president is going after.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. Actually, I'm going to correct you a little bit. I came to the U.S. when I was 9 years old with my grandmother visiting my uncles and aunts. And that's when I became ill. And that's why my mom came to take care of me, and thinking that, we were going to go back home. But we were told that my kidneys had failed. I needed dialysis immediately. So she had to learn how to do peritoneal dialysis, which she gave me every night for 8 hours while working and raising me at the time as a single mother, because my father was not here yet. And during that time, her visa had expired. She didn't come on a tourist visa just for fun. She came for her child. And because I had become so depressed during dialysis, she said, yeah, I will give you my kidney. And she was a match. But, in the meantime, we were able to get a kidney from a deceased donor. And that was in 2001. And that is who she is. She has always put other people first. She has always put me before herself and really anybody else. She has sacrificed her whole life to take care of me. And, I've been sick pretty much my whole life, not just with the transplant, with the kidney failure, but so many other things. And even at her age now, she will be right by my side anytime I'm unwell. She is a beloved member of her community, at her religious institution, at the mosque, and also in the neighborhood, and people and from our culture, as well as friends and family. And she has taken care of other relatives who have been ill as well. And she never expects anything. She's extremely compassionate. She's extremely friendly. And that's why people love her. She is very easy to like.
What's her name?
Her name is Masuma Khan.
What's she's a churchgoer. She's
Yeah,
she's a contributing member of society. She's not a criminal.
no.
You know, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this is such sad shit, man. This is so sad that these are the kinds of people that the Trump administration thinks are a threat, thinks shouldn't be here. We were supposed to go after the bad guys, right? That's what people thought that they were voting for, not to go after a 64-year-old mother who goes to church and is a beloved member of her community in the United States, not Bangladesh. I want to pivot here to talk about California City because it's become apparent to us here at NVN that this is something that we need to look into. Your mom is there. She's talked to you about what's going on, I'm sure, inside. What does she say about the conditions inside California City in the Mojave Desert?
Yeah, so from what I know, this facility was not given permission to operate by the city. And when they took my mom, at first, they did not give her any of her medications for days until she started having trouble breathing. And she kept requesting them to give her medication. Every time I visited, I asked them. And to the point where she was having trouble breathing, speaking, walking, and then they gave her some. It was like they gave her some and then took away some for a while. It took them 10 days to give her most of her medications. She's still missing other ones that she needs. And she was kept in the same clothes for 6 days. She asked many, many times, hey, can I have a chance to change of clothes, including undergarments? They said they didn't have any, which is bizarre. But and then after the 6th day, they were able to give her some clothes, and then also she's talked about the nutrition. It's really awful food. She gets barely any protein. It's all canned vegetables, no fruits, and just really, really bad food. No nutritional value. They keep the facility in freezing temperatures. And they say it's because it kills viruses. I highly doubt this, but they also don't give them any kind of jackets or sweaters. You have to buy that from the commissary. My mom tried to buy one and they said, we don't have any more. So it's like they're setting everyone up for failure here. And also there is an outdoor area for them that, from my understanding, it's unpaved and it has like gravel and pebbles and thorns. And so nobody really wants to go out there to get some fresh air. And those are some of the conditions that I've observed and I've heard from her. And one of the days that my family and I visited, there were flies everywhere. I don't know if there was some kind of animal that had died outside, but it smelled really bad. And there were like hundreds of flies just going in through the front doors, and they were inside, where we visit, and they were just around, and these flies are just on us, and they're everywhere. So that, was pretty disgusting.
This is what immigration enforcement is today in America.
Yeah.
When you hear your mom and her voice, I mean, does she sound like a changed person having gone through these inhumane conditions and psychological trauma?
Yeah, I mean, she is afraid of when they would be deporting her, like they tried this morning, and this is torture, and it's just, psychological abuse, and she has sounded very different. The first time I visited her, she was tearing up, and she was very not like herself, not like her usual friendly, happy self. And that is the tone that I have heard from her every single time.
God, Ria Khan, whose mother is currently in ICE custody. Thank you so much for joining us and for telling her story and sharing who she is. I end every interview by asking this. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think is important to know, or anything that you would like to share? Now's your chance.
Yeah, thank you. There are a couple things. I just wanted to say that the government knows this fraudster. They know who he is. He has been doing this to many, many others, but he is out there running free and still in the country, while his victims, like my mom, they're being punished for what he did. And it's just heartbreaking and extremely disappointing. And also this core civic facility, I know that the Governor Newsom, is aware of this facility. When I called earlier, they said he can't do anything about it. So I'm not really sure who can, when he is fully aware that this facility should not be operating without the permits. So I just wanted to, let everybody know that's what's going on. And, I've been very transparent. My family's been very transparent about this. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to continue to tell her story.
And Rhea, you should know that we're planning on holding those elected officials accountable when it comes to California City. That's on our list of investigations that we're doing right now. And we're going to file all the Freedom of Information Act requests and all the public records requests, do what we can to expose what's going on in California City, which has been brought to light to us as really something that we should focus on. Rhea Khan, God bless you. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon. I'll give you a call after this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And guys, that was Rhea Khan, whose mother, 64 years old, has been in ICE custody since October 6th. That is part of a series that we're bringing to you guys of something that we call Family Separation 2.0 here, because we want to make it clear to people. I'm not going after the Trump voter. I'm not going after people who voted for this man 3 years in a row. There's no convincing this, that voter that whatever's happening right now is awful. I've lost friends over this stuff. I draw the line at bigotry. I draw the line at persecution over people of color. And it's so clear to this journalist, what is happening in this country is not good faith. It is cruelty. It is the optics of cruelty. It is getting the headlines so it looks like they're being tough about law and order, but it's rules for them and then it's rules for the rest of us. And when I say them, I don't mean, the administration. I mean the elite. I mean, the powerful. You have the president out there during a State of the Union address offering $5 million gold cards for citizenship. If you don't tell me that there are rules for the elite and the rest of us, it's right there. They're saying it full-throated. They told us everything that was going to happen. This largest mass deportation in the history of America, that's what we're seeing. And this detention infrastructure where they're building a facility, it seems like every day a new facility. Do you think that they're going to stop at the undocumented or the illegal? Or maybe they're going to go after the undesirable American next. This administration is capable of whatever they want because they don't care. They feel like they have carte blanche and they're moving that way. We're in this long government shutdown. We were just joined by a top Democrat who says we're probably going to get into this even longer. We're standing firm. This is where our country is, man. We're here for the long haul. Thank you guys so, so much. And a special thanks. God, I would be so remiss not to mention this. A special thanks to Shayna Smith. Happy Diwali. You, on your own, decided. We were having some technical problems here at Nick Valencia News. We had a viewer that reached out, and this phone that I'm broadcasting from, it was paid for by Shayna Smith. These graphics, all this stuff. You guys are stepping up in ways that I never thought because you believe in what we're doing, and that's why we're in it here for the long haul. Thank you guys for joining another edition of Nick Valencia Live. Help us make truth go viral. And as always, have a great day on purpose.